to the supervisors, I gave you a card, and the pictures that's on it are from the 3 Clean Business Awards that we've given this year. And we still have one more coming up in December. But there are a lot of places out there that can be nominated. And as I was talking to Mr. McLennan, I said, we don't have very many people in Grove because I don't always get out that way as much as I'd like to. And there are people that probably on Jamestown Road that are eligible to be, but I try to get out and see if I can find them. And but it'll help if everybody would give it. And to the audience here, I would like to invite you to take a card if you want one. Because the Clean County is working on all elements of keeping our county truly a clean county to be proud of. So put the 19th of November on your calendar for the Fix It Fair and Recycling Expo at War Hill High School, 9 to 2. And we're given the task to educate, provide outreach to the community, as well as further prevent litter and encourage recycling, which is reuse, repurpose, and or reduce. So just cleaning up the litter in dumping sites is not the total purpose for our Clean County Commission. We have an important mission, and we all take it very seriously. And we can still use volunteers on the commission as well as just volunteers from the community. And thank you for your time, and I hope to see you all at some of our events.
Thank you very much, Ms. Borman. And that event on the 19th is always a premier one, even when it's pouring rain. So I hope everybody will take advantage of that opportunity to get recycling done and shredding, I think you usually do, and repairing small electronic items and so forth. Great job. We have no items on our consent calendar tonight, so we'll move right into public hearings. And the first public hearing is let me also introduce our Planning Commission member who's here tonight, who's Mr. O'Connor. Good to see him tonight. And we'll move on to public hearing on Ordinance 22-0002, amendments to the R8 rural residential and A1 general agricultural lot size and related requirements public hearing. And Mr. Pearce.
Good evening to the Board of Supervisors. More than 2 years ago, in the spring of 2019, the county began the comprehensive plan update by distributing a countywide survey to better understand what the community wants the future of the county to be. This survey received a statistically significant number of respondents. The survey included a question asking what support, if any, there is to reduce the number of lots that can be divided for large rural properties. More than 80% of citizen respondents supported the idea of reducing lots. This is in keeping with a major theme of citizen for rural lands. The recommended density is 1 unit per 20 acres. This recommended density was first proposed almost a year and a half ago during the comprehensive plan update process. It is based on the recommendation of the Open Space and Rural Character Preservation Analysis prepared by the county's planning consultant, which reviewed peer localities experiencing similar growth pressures. This and other rural land policy issues were discussed at several Planning Commission working group meetings in 2020 and 2021, a joint Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors work session in May of 2021, and at the subsequent board meetings for the plan's public hearings and board consideration. The 2045 Comprehensive Plan was adopted in October of 2021. Following plan adoption, in the spring of this year, the Board of Supervisors adopted an initiating resolution pertaining to the R8 rural residential and A1 general agricultural districts. This resolution contains 3 specific board directives. The first directive is to amend the zoning and subdivision ordinances to revise the R8 and A1 districts to be consistent with the stated rural lands designation description and development standards contained in the adopted 2045 Comprehensive Plan. These standards state that subdivision of lots should occur at a density of no greater than 1 residence per 20 acres. The second directive is to include language that grandfathers all parcels in existence as of January 1st, 2022 that are 25 or fewer acres in size. The third directive is to include language that eliminates the central well requirement for subdivisions that are consistent with the stated rural lands designation description and development standards. Accordingly, planning staff has prepared draft ordinance language that precisely fulfills each of these directives. This language increases the minimum lot size in the A1 and R8 zoning districts from 3 acres to 20 acres, with all parcels in existence as of January 1st, 2022, that are 25 or fewer acres in size being grandfathered with the existing 3-acre minimum lot size. Changes the overall density for the A1 cluster configuration option from 1 unit per 2 acres to 1 unit per 20 acres, and eliminates the central well requirement for new major subdivisions, meaning these subdivisions are required to have individual wells on each lot. This amendment is consistent with the appropriate primary uses stated for rural lands within the comprehensive plan and does not change the intent of the A1 zoning district or the permitted uses within the A1 zoning district. A wide variety of agricultural and forestry uses are permitted or specially permitted, including traditional agricultural and forestry operations, the keeping of horses and other livestock, animal and poultry operations, and wineries. There are also approximately 50 commercial uses that are permitted or specially permitted, with examples including hunting preserves, tourist homes such as Airbnbs, and rental of rooms, event facilities, contractors' offices, animal hospitals, campgrounds and retreat facilities, farmers and flea markets, antique shops, horse racing tracks and show areas, and plant nurseries. In addition, property owners in the A1 zoning district will still have the option to create lots for family members that are less than the minimum lot size through the family subdivision special use permit application process. The family subdivision SUP process is relatively inexpensive and quicker than a typical SUP process. The fee for a family SUP is significantly less than a general SUP, and the application goes directly to the Board of Supervisors, meaning the minimum required review time is half that of a typical special use permit. The prepared draft language included in your agenda packet was reviewed by the Policy Committee at its August 11th and August 22nd meetings. The Policy Committee recommended this language proceed to the Planning Commission by a vote of 4-0, and at its September 7th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this amendment by a vote of 4-3. Neither the Policy Committee nor the Planning Commission has added or revised any language, meaning this proposed language addresses the exact guidance provided in the board's initiating resolution. Staff recommends the board approve this ordinance amendment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weishong, and apologies for misdiagnosing you.
Oh, for Jason, yeah. I do have a couple of questions. To start with, at the Planning Commission meeting, I do know there was significant confusion, and you did just go over this, but I just want to clarify about the family subdivisions as part of this. Could you please reiterate for everyone who's here how this would affect or not affect family subdivisions and the little special piece of that, if they're in an AFD, how that would differ, perhaps?
Yes, ma'am. So currently, if you want to do a family subdivision in the A1 zoning district that is a lot size less than the minimum requirement, you are required to apply for a special use permit for a family subdivision. That process would remain the same.
So this does not apply to family subdivisions?
Yes, ma'am. It would be the same process.
Same process. I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
want everyone to understand that. So we're good with that. And then if they're in an AFD, how does that differ?
It would not change the process. If you're within an AFD, you would still have to go through the
Withdrawal
Yes, ma'am.
process?
The requirements that are within the AFD, you would still have to follow those.
Okay, I do know that there was some confusion at the Planning Commission meeting, and I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. And I do have one other quick question for staff, if Mr. Holt might come up real quick. I do know that this has zero bearing on what we're voting on tonight on the potential change, but Paul, if you would please give us an update for everyone here where we are with the PDR program, because it could eventually affect some of this. Just maybe briefly give us an update and let everyone know about the presentation that you gave us recently.
Sure, that'll be fine, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening. So over the past several years, the board has taken several concrete steps towards rebuilding its open space preservation program. In fiscal year 21, for example, the board approved additional staff resources to manage our existing easements and to begin to work on new opportunities. Last fiscal year and the fiscal year that we're in, the board allocated funds in the county's budgets, adopted budgets. We've got about 1.6 million available currently between the 2 years and some previous older existing funds that could be used towards future preservation efforts. As these funds build over time, the county will be in an even stronger position to talk to property owners, to work with partners, and to receive matching grants towards new conservation easements. And the work session or business meeting that you referred to here most recently was in May of this year. Board received an overview from staff on the various tools and the funding resources, and at that time, you may also remember, we highlighted a graphical decision tree that's available as a resource that attempts to match up the best tool with the property owner's desires for their property and what timelines best meet their goals and plans, whether that's a shorter timeline or a longer timeline. And we have that posted on our website and can make that available as well.
And where would people go to find that on the website?
Navigate to community development and then to the comprehensive plan. We've got it included within the open space discussion portion of our adopted comprehensive plan. And if somebody can't find it because it's a lot of pages, they can email the department and we'll send them that one page just directly.
Very good. Thank you.
Shortcut
I
all of that.
appreciate the updates that you've given us, and the presentation in May was very helpful. And I'll just follow up with that and saying I look forward to further discussions about that as we progress through all of this with the criteria and guidelines and everything that's going to come along with that. And I'll just say it right here, if this passes tonight, I will be supporting the PDR program so that we can compensate our landowners who may qualify.
More to come.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah.
No? All right. Mr. O'Connor, would you report on the Planning Commission's actions? Thank you for being here tonight.
Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I just want to thank Mr. Weissong. He saved me and you a lot of my notes. He did a great job summarizing our last meeting and some of the concerns that came up. But as you're quite aware, this has been something that has been thoroughly discussed, researched, debated, not just this past comp plan, but multiple comp plans before. And ultimately, this adopted comp plan included the change to 1 to 20 acres in rural lands. Again, I think Mr. Weissong did a great job summarizing our last meeting, and as you're aware, the Planning Commission approved this recommendation to the board by a vote of 4 to 3. Those in favor voted largely due to its compliance with the comp plan's stated goals, and those not in favor were opposed primarily to the concern as to whether 25 acres was the correct number for grandfathered acreage, and that there were currently other impacts to these rural land parcels under consideration, but not yet before you, including setbacks along scenic roads and developable acreage. So for some of us, and me in particular, I viewed that as incomplete for at this time. So I wanted to get through those pieces prior to voting in favor of the 1 to 20. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I don't have any, but I would like to recognize Mrs. Barbara Knoll, who's here, who is the Planning Commission rep for Stonehouse as well, if there's any others here. But thank you.
Any questions for Mr. O'Connor? If not, thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And so I will go ahead and then open the public hearing. And the first speaker card that I have is for Linda Rice, who will be speaking as a group representative. Ms. Rice?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Linda Rice. I live at 2394 Forge Road, Toano. I'm here tonight representing our community organization, Friends of Forge Road in Toano, and we have several members there in the back row. Before getting into the comments, I'd like to mention that, as Mr. Weissong has alluded to, what you're going to be voting on tonight with regard to this amendment has been a long time coming. I've lived on Forge Road for almost 45 years, and Friends of Forge Road in Toano has been in existence since about 2004. And during that time, we've really worked on a couple of issues. One has been the preservation of rural lands. One is the emphasis of the importance of the history in many places in the upper county. And then also most recently, I would say a renewed emphasis on these rural lands being used for the purpose of either agritourism or agribusiness. And we have some examples of that presently really on Forge Road as well as some other areas in the county. Friends of Forge Road in Toano applauds the Board of Supervisors for unanimously adopting the initiating resolution on March the 8th, 2022, which called for consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance to establish lot sizes in the R8 and A1 zoning districts that are consistent with the stated rural lands designation description and development standards of the 2045 Comprehensive Plan. And as I mentioned, our organization strongly supports these amendments. We also acknowledge the concerns of long-established property owners in our community and their desire for flexibility in the disposition of the land. After all, we all are neighbors. However, there are other property owners whose concerns must also be addressed. And some of these are owners of working farms and or agritourism businesses who depend on the rural environment for their livelihood and quality of life, owners of properties who purchase their homes in agricultural areas for the specific purpose of living in a rural environment, as my husband and I did years ago, owners of homes throughout James City County, many of whom are fixed income retirees who bear the ever-increasing tax burden of residential growth and the resulting demand on schools and other essential services. We respectively submit that the needs of all property owners in James City County should be considered whether their land has been in the family for 100 years or whether they just moved in. We also acknowledge and value private property rights. We agree that those rights should be respected. However, those rights must be exercised within the confines of zoning laws, building codes, and other restrictions and guidelines. No property owner in James City County is permitted to use, subdivide, develop, or build on their land completely as they see fit. That's how it works. The year 1975 is when the first comprehensive plan was approved by the Board of Supervisors. In this original plan, the primary service area was established. And as stated in the comp plan, the PSA is our county's foundational, longstanding growth management tool. Inclusion of their land in the PSA has been relied upon time and again by property owners to justify development. This has resulted in the expansive residential, commercial, and industrial growth, which we have all witnessed in James City County. However, rural lands are different. The rural land designation description in the 2045 Comprehensive Plan states residential development is not a recommended use and is discouraged outside the PSA in the rural lands. And this statement has been in the county's comp plan since inception. In survey after survey, the vast majority of citizens have repeatedly affirmed their desire to maintain the character of rural lands. Are we honoring the stewardship in James City County? Clearly, the current minimum lot size provisions are not working. Between 2015 and 2019, the total number of housing units in James City increased by approximately 5.4%. During the same time period, the number of housing units and land designated in rural lands actually increased by approximately 7% or 30% more than in the county as a whole. This growth is exactly the opposite of the goals of the county and the expressed wishes of county residents. If this pattern continues, we will watch our prized and finite or rural lands gradually dissolve both visually and functionally into large lot residential subdivisions. And rural land does require farms and open space. Some would argue that our farmland is urgently needed to provide housing in James City. These facts do not support this. Using county data, our planning staff has concluded there is a capacity for 10,608 additional dwelling units within the PSA. This would be sufficient to accommodate about a 30% population increase. And I believe our population in 2020 was, the figure I have is 76,032. I'm sure that has increased. And as to the need for workforce housing, the JCC Affordable Housing Task Force, in its February 2019 report, strongly recommends that the developments be located in proximity to job opportunities, along transit corridors, and within the PSA, not in rural lands. Again, the proposed change in lot size implementing the adopted comp plan is a balanced approach. The Planning Commission work group studied the issue of lot size and rural land preservation extensively, considering the experience of other high-growth Virginia counties. The group's conclusion was that, in general, the most successful zoning for rural protection has been achieved in the 20 to 50 acres per dwelling unit range of density. 1 unit per 20 acres is, in fact, a modest proposal. Finally, the proposed amendments provide ample accommodations for existing landowners. These include provisions for family subdivisions, which we've already heard discussed, and also for cluster configuration subdivisions, allowing for reduced acre lots. We applaud the Board of Supervisors for its reasoned, balanced approach to the protection of our rural environment. The proposed amendments will bring our zoning ordinance in line with the adopted comprehensive plan and the stated wishes of the vast majority of the citizens of James City. In addition, these zoning changes will complement the county's commitment to its natural and cultural assets and will help promote agritourism. We urge that you vote yes and help preserve our distinctive rural lands for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Mary Adol?
My name is Mary Adol, 2724 Forge Road. Thank you so much for letting me voice my concerns tonight against this proposed A1 zoning amendment. James City County has a history of recognizing and supporting property rights and home ownership. This proposed sevenfold downsizing in A1 represents a marked change in policy for the county and is an attack on both property rights and home ownership. Landowners holding more than 25 acres will see the value of their acreages destroyed, and working-class citizens will lose any hope of affordable housing, let alone the dream of a house on a few acres. Ironically enough, these landowners have been the last holdouts against development and have happily provided the scenic views we all want to preserve. They are exclusively the ones forced to directly pay for this approach to curbing development and preserving rural lands. This proposed policy is inequitable and unfair to both landowners and middle-class citizens. The county has in its arsenal other programs which achieve our desired goals. without causing inequity, such as the transfer of development rights. Due to these reasons, I'm opposed to this A1 amendment, and I encourage you to not move this proposal forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Adol. Linda Henderson Gordon.
Good evening. Wow, I hardly recognize the James City County I knew and loved. Admittedly, it's been quite a while since my ancestors came to Jamestown, and since I was born in Bell Hospital, attended Matthew Whaley Elementary School, James Blair High School, and William and Mary. In my time, my daddy was head of the Planning Commission. My cousin, the Commonwealth's attorney, and my grandfather, who brought his bird dog Joe from Toano in the trunk of his Chevrolet to spend the day under the desk he had to purchase for himself, was Commissioner of Revenue for James City County. Looks as if the Planning Commission, Board of Supervisors, and James City County have come up in the world, perhaps too far up. Sadly, government on all levels has forgotten that they are elected to be the servants of we the people. They have become professional experts at demanding and spending OPM, other people's money, for never-ending new projects. Now they're embracing a new strategy controlling OPP, other people's property, and they are never satiated. A UVA study indicated that developing previously undeveloped areas costs governments money because the new residents demand infrastructure expansion. I think this has been proven to be a fact in James City County. Now you need green space from those who have resisted development pressures. Now you want to limit rural areas to one dwelling per 20 acres. It will probably be one dwelling per 50 to 100 acres in the future. None of this sounds like a local government's proposal because it isn't. Phrases like sustainable development, common goals, wildlife corridors, etc. sound good, but are liberty annihilating. It's all part of the union between local governments under ICLEI, the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum. I was told that James City County withdrew from ICLEI due to citizen pressure, but obviously you still have the ICLEI mindset. We've all seen the bumper stickers, think globally, act locally. And let's not forget the quote, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Incrementally, this is being brought forth. Fortunately for us, these globalist proposals are currently blocked by our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the 5th and the 14th Amendments. The 5th Amendment contains the takings clause. There are two ways government can take privately held property. One, by eminent domain, taking title with just compensation, and two, by imposing regulations that diminish and devalue property, leaving title and taxes to be paid by the robbed landowner. An example of the Fifth Amendment in practice in a legal regulatory taking case is Pennsylvania Coal versus Maine, 1922, involving the doctrine of a property owner's confiscation of rights under common law. Quote, if regulation goes too far, it will be recognized as the taking for which compensation must be paid, unquote. Since the 1980s, there have been more successful regulatory taking cases won by property owners. If this proposal is adopted, justifiable lawsuits will follow. No one loves forested, undeveloped lands more than me. I have steadfastly resisted unsolicited offers for my small ancestral holding, but I have no right to demand groupthink from other property holders. Remember the commandment, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods, their property in this case. I urge our James City County supervisors to reject this proposal, which illegally usurps private property's vested rights and violates protections under the U.S. Constitution. We are Virginians. We are landholders of James City County, the mother county. Your job should be to encourage and thank us for retaining some open space, not stealing our property's value. Vote to save that which has not already been lost. Preserve our God-given property rights. preserve freedom's birth in this county. As one of our most famous sons penned, quote, "Nothing is ours which another may deprive us," unquote. Thomas Jefferson to Mary Causeway in 1786. Also, quote, "By nature's law, every man has a right to seize and retake by force his own property taken from him by another, by force or fraud." Thomas Jefferson at Batour, New Orleans in 1812. I implore you to uphold our constitutional liberties and protect our property holdings. Sic semper tyrannis.
Ms. Gordon, would you mind stating your address, please, just for the record?
Address?
Yes.
Well, here in Williamsburg or James City County, I live on Route 5, and I currently live on the eastern shore of Virginia. But I also have.
Just so that we have an address in the record. That's all.
Okay. Hayden, what is the address in? 499